We're talking the Tesla Model 3, the iPhone SE, as well as about Dylan Lewis behind his back on this tech edition of Industry Focus. Greetings, fools. Sean O'Reilly here at Fool Headquarters in Alexandria, Virginia. It is Friday, March 11th, 2016, and joining me to talk tech via phone from Denver, Colorado is former Fool.com Technology Bureau Chief, Mr. Evan New. Evan, how is it going, man?
Pretty good.
Long time
Pretty
no
nice
chat.
out here today.
Yeah, so we spring arrived in DC here this week. So it's been 60s and 70s, a little bit of sunny, a little bit of overcast. What is it like out there?
Right now it's like 7 degrees, but I think out here it can snow all the way until like April or May, which is crazy because I'm from Texas. But
yeah,
kind of have to get used to it.
Right. Oh, that's right. Yeah, you and the wife are from Austin. I remember you guys. You guys would not stop talking about Austin. We miss you at HQ, man. I don't get to talk to you enough.
Yeah, I know, man.
So really quick, before we talk about Tesla, which am I allowed to say this on air? You ordered one?
I do have one now. I bought
oh my gosh, you have one? I cannot wait to talk about that. But first, we've got a couple of announcements out of Apple. First and foremost, what is the iPhone SE? I have not been keeping up nearly enough.
Yeah, so they officially sent out invitations for an event for March 21st, which is, just over a week from now. And the two main things that people are expecting are this iPhone SE, which stands for Special Edition or something. I think the naming's kind of silly. I don't know why
they already offer a gold iPhone, so what could possibly be special about it?
Well, it's going to be supposedly it's going to be a 4-inch one. So they haven't released a new 4-inch iPhone since the iPhone 5S in 2013.
Okay.
So it's just kind of a way to update that 4-inch model because a lot of people still like 4-inch phones. Not everyone wants
the huge
bigger phone.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's just really a way to kind of strengthen the product lineup, really keep all of the main offerings good, because they've always had a low, mid, and high price points that they sit at, right? So this is just a way to kind of keep the lower price point a strong product.
Okay. So what's been going on with the big iPad, the 9.7-inch iPad Pro?
Well, so what they're also expected to announce is a 9.7-inch iPad Pro. I mean, the super big one is the 12.9-inch one.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, yeah.
So the 9.7 is like what used to be the big one that they've always had. Mm-hmm. So that one is kind of expected to be similar to the super giant one in terms of like the design. Have the 4 speakers, and apparently they might even be rebranding it as like from right now it's iPad Air, and they might make it an iPad Pro. So kind of include it in the Pro family. Maybe with some of these other features, like maybe they have the Apple Pencil support, which, hopefully is a big selling point for the big Pro. I mean, it's still kind of too early to
Steve Jobs is rolling over in his grave. No, I'm just kidding. He hated the pencil, the stylus stuff, right?
Yeah, I mean, well, it makes no sense on a phone, which is kind of like, those quotes of him bashing styluses were all in the context of the iPhone.
Right.
And it makes a little bit more sense on a tablet because it's bigger, and especially from like creative professionals that rely on that type of stuff for their jobs.
Do you have you caught wind of anything about the smart keyboard at all?
Yeah, so that's another kind of big question. Is like, are they going to also have a smart keyboard for this new 9.7-inch iPad Pro? Because right now there's this recent report from IDC saying detachables are really taking off. So think about Microsoft Surface as like kind of the main detachable that everyone thinks about. But, as a category, people really like this idea of tablets that can kind of like, for a long time, everyone was trying to figure out how do you get a tablet and a laptop, one device that kind of does all of that, Mm-hmm. And a lot of companies tried and just didn't really make a lot of progress. But this detachable idea is starting to take off. And IDC, for what it's worth, IDC does consider the iPad Pro as detachable because of the keyboard. Mm-hmm. So if you have this 9.7-inch iPad Pro and you have the keyboard, it can maybe take advantage of some of the increased demand we're seeing for these detachables, just because it's a little bit more versatile, a little bit more. You can conceivably replace your laptop with it. I mean, I think I've never been interested in having a tablet that replaces my laptop. Yeah. I prefer 2 separate categories. Like I just have my laptop and I have my tablet, and they're good for different things, but that's what the market wants. So
Yeah, what do you make of the since you mentioned it, the Microsoft Surface and everything? Because a lot of people at this office, I mean, you've been here, like we skew Apple occasionally, but there's a lot of people at the Fool at least that really like the Surface Pro 3 and 4.
I mean, I've never really liked it as a form factor, just because like you can't really use it on your lap because the kickstand and like this kind of like goes back to the age old conversation of like the compromises that come into like having tablets that do the same thing as laptops, and I've just never been a fan of that. Because it's like a laptop, you want to be able to set it up anywhere you go, like you're in bed, you're on the train, you know what I mean, and with the kickstand, you can't really do that. I mean, I will say, though, that I think Microsoft does have a big advantage here in terms of the operating system, because Apple's always been this discrete approach of like, we have a tablet operating system and then we have a desktop operating system. But Microsoft has been working to converge and have this one operating system that can do both. So in that sense, if you have a device that's trying to do both, I think Microsoft has an advantage there. Because like iOS, when it's in like this kind of like the laptop setup, with the keyboard, I just think it's awkward, like you're trying to touch the screen and, like it's just ergonomically not very pleasant to hold your hand up and like try to do all this stuff on the screen. So, I think it's kind of Apple and Microsoft each kind of picked their approaches years ago, and now we're just kind of seeing how that all plays out, particularly as the market evolves. So it'll be kind of interesting to see how it plays out.
Cool.
Still.
So before we move on to Tesla real quick, and since this is the Motley Fool and we care about investing, really quick, just talk to me about what Apple's set to announce regarding share buybacks and capital returns.
So they give annual updates. So every March, April, they give an update to the capital return program. So that's coming up here pretty soon. And, just a month ago or so, Tim Cook publicly committed to annual dividend increases, which, should have been pretty obvious anyways, but it never hurts for him to just kind of reiterate that. So I would expect Apple's going to give some type of dividend increase. Who knows? But we'll just kind of wait and see. But I'm actually a bigger fan of the buyback program, just because
especially
it's
with the multiple
so
on
massive.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, so right now, for some context, the current program is for a total of $200 billion, including $140 billion for repurchases. To date, or at least as of December last quarter, they had repurchased about $110 billion, which is kind of just crazy to think about. Like, that's bigger than the market caps of like mega cap. That's like more than like a mega cap.
It's the GDP of a bunch of countries. Like,
yeah, exactly. And so I mean that really is very accretive because they're retiring a ton of shares and really boosting earnings per share, which Apple's always been cheap, but it just keeps it cheap because the earnings multiple is so low. And I mean, some people like to call like financial engineering or whatever, but I don't. I think that's kind of a misleading term because it suggests that they're doing something like nefarious, but it's just delivering value, like real value to shareholders, because they're just accreting earnings per share to existing shareholders. I mean, I love the program because it's so big, and a lot of people generally criticize buyback programs when they're badly timed, but with Apple so cheap, it's hard to say that they're making a bad trade on it. It's not like they're buying it at the highs when the valuation looks stretched. They're buying it when the shares are cheap.
right.
So it's kind of it's hard to apply those kind of generic criticisms to it.
Awesome. Well, before we move on, I wanted to point our listeners to the newly redesigned focus.fool.com. There you'll discover a special offer to join the Motley Fool Stock Advisor newsletter that works out to $129 for a full 2-year subscription. Once again, that is focus.fool.com. So, Evan, before we talk Tesla Model 3 and stuff, I want to hear about your new whip.
So I ordered a certified pre-owned Model S from Tesla a couple months ago. Took delivery about a month. So it wasn't a new one, but it was like 18 months old,
right?
Which is like basically new.
Yeah.
And we got a great deal on it. So I mean, it was basically a third off what it would cost to buy a brand new one.
Was that process pretty smooth with Tesla?
Oh yeah, I mean it was incredibly easy because I just went online and found a model on their pre-owned site that had really good mileage, had the options that I wanted, and then just ordered online. And then it was actually they had to ship it from New York, So, I had to wait a little while. But in Colorado, we have a $6,000 tax credit for electric vehicles. And if that has never been claimed on that vehicle before, then you can claim it. So even though this is a used one, since it's never been registered in Colorado, I'll get a $6,000 tax credit when I do my 2016 taxes, which certainly helps offset the price of the car.
For sure.
Yeah.
I noticed you keep telling me you're always dropping the kids off at school and stuff, and I have to think that you're doing it just so you can drive around in the Tesla more.
Oh, of course. You find excuses now to drive around.
I mean, for 1 or 2 years, Musk has been teasing the Model 3, which is going to be more of their mainstream Tesla model. And as I understand it, the unveiling is going to be this month. So what can Tesla investors expect?
So I think it's hard to really imagine any negative storylines coming out of this. Like, everyone is just so excited about this. I mean, you just hear people talking about it constantly. Like, you go on the internet or just I'm sure you have friends, like, personally, I bet you have some friends that have heard about it and are interested. Like, am I right?
I mean, it's going to be priced at $35,000. Yeah. I mean, we're all.
Yeah. And that's the crazy thing is that, like, no one knows what this car is going to look like. Like, like, kind of the basic stats that they're trying to hit, like the $35,000 price, 200-mile range. But you know nothing about what the car looks like, right? Which is what.
No, the only thing I knew was the what's the bigger one with the Falcon wings?
X.
Yeah. I've seen that. Like, I've been looking at photos of that for a year.
But what's crazy is, like, there's so much interest around a car that no one's ever seen before. Like, that's pretty impressive. To, like, people are just like, all I want is an affordable Tesla. I don't know what it looks like. But I want it. Like, there are tons of people
take my money
on Twitter, on forum. Yeah, exactly. They're basically like already planning on buying this car, but you've never even seen it, which is just kind of crazy to think about, like, a purchase that large that your people are. I mean, obviously, not everyone's going to follow through, but the initial interest is so strong on a car that you know very little about, which is, I think, pretty impressive.
You've expressed the opinion to me that Tesla still needs to beef up delivery service and supercharger infrastructure. Can you add some color to that?
Yeah, so I think that's going to be a challenge. I mean, they're still targeting late 2017 for launch, but I mean, right now they've produced just a little over 100,000 vehicles total, and they have the service infrastructure. They have direct sales where they're allowed to, at least, which is kind of state by state. But then they have these supercharger. But each supercharger location, might only have maybe 5 to 10 different stalls, and it takes you, 20, 30 minutes to charge. And in places like California, where there's a lot of Teslas, because California is just so friendly to EVs, they have a lot of Teslas in California. Mm-hmm. Even now, you do hear stories of congestion. Like, sometimes you can have really bad congestion. There was one story that went around over the holidays of, like, this person had to wait like 40 minutes to charge up, And when you start talking about ramping up the volume that they're expecting, like, they're targeting 500,000 units by 2020, that has to put a strain on the infrastructure side in terms of how you're going to deliver all these cars, how are you going to service all these cars, how are you going to provide sufficient supercharger availability to all these cars. So I think they have to, and I have no doubt that this is on their radar, but you really have to get ahead of it and build up this infrastructure ahead of time to be able to handle that sheer volume of stuff. And because Tesla's much more vertically integrated than other car makers, they do all this stuff themselves. So, it's a big investment, it's a big commitment, and it just really underscores the execution of what they need to execute on to really succeed and be able to handle this kind of volume, because they've never done this type of volume before.
It's kind of like, during the 70s oil embargo, you saw the lines at the gas stations, but this time it's with a bunch of electric vehicles, and they're looking to charge.
Yeah, exactly. So that actually is another good point. It's like, I think no one knows what the options are going to be priced at. So I think it's pretty likely that they're going to charge you for supercharging, because when they first launched the Model S, you had to pay extra to get supercharging. I mean, now it's standard, but in the early days, for the lower capacity models, you had to pay extra. Like, I think it's like $2,500. So it would make sense if they want to charge for it, because that also is a pretty important option, helps increase the price of the car, beyond just the base. But it also would limit maybe what kind of congestion volume you have in traffic at the superchargers if not everyone chooses to get that capability.
Got it.
You know.
So before we head out here, I'm anxious to get some insights on what you saw at the Meet Model X event that you attended there in Denver, I saw. And you saw the Model X there, right?
I drove it.
Oh, my gosh. What did you think?
It was pretty wild. Like, the car is just so fast, and it's an SUV, and it's, I mean, if you've ever ridden or test driven one of the ludicrous ones, like, it slams your head in the back of the seat, which is kind of jarring at first. And I kind of feel bad for all the Tesla's press people that have to constantly deal with that. Like, I actually asked the press person,
whiplash,
like, do you ever get sick? Yeah, exactly. It's like you're constantly taking test drives and constantly people are just slamming your head back in the seat because they're testing the car out. But I mean, it's the panoramic windshield is actually really cool. I didn't think it was going to be that cool, but being able to see so high up, I mean, functionally, I mean, visibility, it's more of like a vertical visibility. So it's not like things don't hit you from above in a car. So
yeah.
I don't know how like functional it is in terms of, it doesn't help you with your blind spot, for example. But it does provide for a pretty crazy experience. And the doors are, of course, like amazing. But I also have concerns like, are those going to be more trouble than they're worth? Like what's later on down the line, fast forward 5 years, what's out of warranty repair expense going to be on those doors if there's a problem? And they've already had a lot of problems just in manufacturing them, so it's a very complex design, and I think they're awesome, but I would have some concerns about maybe it's a risk going forward. Maybe it ends up being more trouble than it's worth, because the benefits are, I mean, there are functional benefits. They can open tight spots, you can get in the car easier, but is, again, like, what's the benefit compared to the possible risk and the cost later on? And only time will tell,
Got it. Now, before we head out, are you a Tesla shareholder right now?
Yeah, I invested in Tesla back in 2011 at about $30 a share. So
good for you.
We're enjoying the ride.
So you are a Musk believer. Okay, cool. Well, send my regards to the family, Evan, and thank you again for calling in.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Have a good one. And if you're a loyal listener and have questions or comments, we would love to hear from you. Just email us at industryfocus@fool.com. Again, that's industryfocus@fool.com. And as always, people in this program may have interests in the stocks they talk about, and the Motley Fool may have formal recommendations for or against those stocks, so don't buy or sell anything based solely on what you hear on this program. For Evan New, I'm Sean O'Reilly. Thanks for listening, and Fool on.